Hi, this is Dave Gershman, and you are back at the Reselect Music Podcast. And for this episode, we're welcoming a new voice to our podcast, that of my friend Sarah Wassell. She's very well versed in music and has made an excellent addition to our discussions. For this episode, we join our newly formed trio of podcasters as they talk about the Talking Heads. We were able to discuss pretty much all of their output. We had to cut a couple of their later albums out, just for sanity's sake. Not to judge the music, but rather the volume of listening that we had to do. So we've listened to everything from their debut album up through and including Little Creatures. So without further ado, here's me, Eric, and Sarah talking about the Talking Heads. Welcome back to the Reselect Music Podcast. This is Dave.
And this is Eric.
And we're bringing you a very special podcast episode recorded from a completely different location this week.
Hopefully this sounds all right.
Yeah, we have a special guest, my friend Sarah.
Hello. Who
I work with.
Yes.
And she's going to help us talk about Talking Heads today.
Hell yeah.
We're recording at her place. That's the special location. So we've been listening to the Talking Heads for the past, just a week for you, right?
It's been like 2 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
Because the first week was just This Must Be the Place.
Oh, that's right. You were
That's
listening to that
all I listened
nonstop.
to.
That's a great song.
And you know, there's going to be one song you put on repeat.
Yeah, and I repeated it riding my motorcycle as the sun was setting, going over the West Seattle Bridge.
That sounds so nice.
That was incredible. Yeah.
That's very cool. Did you enjoy the moment in Stop Making Sense when that comes out with the lamp?
Or he's dancing with the lamp? Oh, yeah.
Is that the song that's playing while he's dancing with the lamp?
Yeah. That film is incredible. It's like so fresh.
Was the first time you saw that recently?
Yesterday.
It was recently
So
for me also.
You'd seen clips of it on YouTube,
yeah,
right? But
of
you'd
course.
never
I was
seen
aware of
them.
like a bunch of the his giant suit was like the thing, right?
But that was your first time all the way through.
Yeah, and I'm just blown away by the artistry of the way they set the stage up. Bring on piece by piece like that.
Yes.
It's so simple and pure, but so effective.
Yeah.
It's just like one of the most brilliant ideas ever.
I agree.
To do a thing that you have to do anyway, then make everybody else part of it while you're doing it instead of trying to hide it.
Right. And if there's anybody who's going to come out on stage by himself and entertain you the way the stumbling around thing, it was David Byrne's just the ideal host for that sort of thing, I think.
Yeah. Well, you read that he started out busking in San Francisco. That was kind of mostly where he got his initial performance experience.
I didn't read that.
And he says about it that what it did for him was you could see immediately people's reactions. So you could see how the thing you were doing, how it affected them right then. And I see that in so much of the recordings and that film. It's that same kind of thing.
Yeah.
That thing you were talking about. If anybody could come out on stage alone and entertain, right?
Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, because obviously when you're on stage and there's crowd down there, you don't really get that kind of feedback.
One of the things you were talking about, David Byrne, that really blew me away and kind of chimed into exactly what you were saying a moment ago is he knew his purpose in life. He's like one of these few people, it seems like, it really discovered what his role was, what he's supposed to do. And I think that came out in his artistry that this is what I'm supposed to do now. I'm supposed to dance with a lamp or whatever, and then the funky things that he does, he's really remarkable and
he owns it. He completely
identifying I can do this and I enjoy doing this.
Well, I think that comes out in the kind of music that they made, right?
It ties in, it all ties together.
This insane amount of funkiness that is happening in their music, while at the same time they're coming from such a place of non-black music. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But to be that funky
and
that white at the same time.
To see them. You would never.
It's crazy. And I think it's part of what you're talking about. That if only you're not thinking about any of that shit. You're just I'm just trying to make this thing that sounds like it needs to be to me.
Exactly. Instead of asking yourself, should I be doing this kind of music? Because am I the perfect person to just do it? Because it's
I should be doing this because nothing I'll ever do is better than that.
Right. Yeah.
Old dude that's doing it. Which think of the Rolling Stones and the Animals and everyone else thought that.
Yeah. It's clear he doesn't think like anybody else really too. It's just he seems like he just completely commits to whatever thoughts he's having, what inspirations he's got, and he just rolls with it. And,
right.
And most of the time it works. At least what they put on recordings work. I'm sure there's been some.
Well, we saw his whole period of time on stage in that movie, and I think he's just able to do that consistently. All the time if he wants to. Yeah.
Well, he said that
he's nailed it.
There were things like they would, because it's a couple shows strung together, right? It's not just one concert.
I think it was like over the. I think they were consecutive nights or something.
Oh,
I think
cool. Well, he said that the moves were actually fairly choreographed.
Are they?
Because they figured out like the best ones for the songs in the moment, and then they kept doing those moments that worked, which he kind of grappled with. Like, is it honest to like choreograph it? Right.
And another huge part of that movie is the cinematography of it. Like just Jonathan Demme being the director, who also did Silence of the Lambs and many other. Yeah, he's directed some amazing movies, regular movies, but he I don't know, the look of that movie is so cool. Different. I think part of it's like all the different angles, and it's not your typical concert film by any stretch of.
Also the lighting. The lighting is key.
Yes.
All white light. And
some of that like underneath lighting.
Yeah, it was like basically as long as it's white, like kind of we can do anything with it. And they consulted with some theater people in New York at the time. Like, this is what we're doing. This is how we're going to do it. Performed a couple things, and I got notes from them, and then suggestions on how to stage it. So it's really thought out. Yeah, it's not casual, which is cool because it looks casual, right? It looks just so exuberant and like natural, but
it's just all black,
very carefully planned. Yeah, they matte painted a bunch of the like stands for the instruments. So that only specific things would stand out in the light.
And
that makes sense.
Yeah, because if you think about it, it's really clear.
There's not a lot of concerts usually still have shiny bits everywhere. Middle.
It's very controlled which bits are shiny.
That's an insight. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, the whole idea of his dancing on the stage is choreographed. You know, I had a feeling that it was more spontaneous than that, and it's a little disappointing to hear that it's choreographed.
Well, I think the choreography isn't so much like a Fosse, like everybody put your hands up at beat 3. I think it's more just like this is the point, the break in the song where we do this one kind of dance move, you know, because like in the film there's moments where like he'll lock eyes with the backup singers and they'll do like a funny kind of like in sync like dance move, but they're still loose dance moves. I think it's more like that, like you know, that worked really well when we did it that section of the song. So we'll do that again.
And some of his moves are from like the video for like once in a lifetime. He does that, the whole, you know, the arm chop and stuff, and that's all from the video. And exactly some of those. Well, my favorite scenes for going into the movie here. One of my favorite scenes from it is that at the end of Once in a Lifetime, when he's all the way back. He's like bent himself way backward, and then he comes upright, and then they turn to the backup dancers who are coming up much slower, and there's like you see them in the background, him from the side. It's just and right above them are Jerry Harrison and Bernie Worrell and the keyboards, and they're like mirrored up and higher, you know, high and low, and it's just amazing scene.
That was a cool visual for sure.
And I saw it originally when it first came out in college on a huge screen.
Whoa.
And it was just, and you know, pretty good sound system and everything too. So it blew me away. I mean, just the first time. So
you've been listening to their music for a long time.
Yes. Yeah.
For like how long would you say?
Well, I first heard them when their Take Me to the River came out. I was heavily into top 40 radio. I would write down every Sunday I would listen to Casey Kasem, and I would write down the list, and then I'd put it on my wall, and then next week I'd see where the songs moved around.
Wow.
And so it was 78, I think they came out, and and it was like unlike anything I'd ever heard before, but it wasn't like it was unusual, but it wasn't so weird that it turned me off, you know.
Right.
And I think already, I mean, I was probably a little more willing to hear odd music. My parents had a pretty wide collection. I don't know, for whatever reason. It didn't strike me as too out there, but it's just
they're considered like new wave when they came out, right? From GG's or
right. I mean that kind of
and punk too,
became, right? And punk,
new wave.
And although I think the punk thing, if you were
that blows my mind.
Yeah.
But they started CBGBs.
Right. I think that's why. That's why.
Punk pedigree, right?
Yeah. But you remember in the movie we saw, the CBGBs had all those other, like Ramones, Blondie, more Blondie's pop punk anyway. But I think getting grouped in with those is probably why they got that punk thing, and maybe just I don't know. I mean, it's there's no other punks like them by any means, but
I mean,
there's some
music
attitude.
doesn't
I guess
sound like anything else, right? When it came out, it didn't sound like anything else.
No.
I mean, it sounded like something, like African beats and like funk, like we were saying, but like not really like anything.
And there's probably like some craft work or something that you could
totally. Yeah, I could see
find
that
blended in there, and so I mean, you can find the things that lead into what they were doing, but nobody else sounded like them at all.
So in that way, punk makes sense, right? Because if they're the outliers,
right. So, like, Take Me to the River was on their second album, so I hadn't heard their first one, but then I had a friend in high school who he introduced me to a lot of great stuff that I don't know where he found it, but so he gave me a cassette of Talking Heads 77, and when I heard that, like, this is just so odd, and it was like not super clearly recorded, so it had this kind of like
because the first unmastered version of it,
it was probably
that on iTunes.
Oh.
And way before this, like I think we talked like a year ago, and I said I was going to try to listen to all their records, which is probably why I invited you. Which I didn't do at the time. It's too ambitious. But like I bought the unremastered version on iTunes, and it like you can't hear it. You can't turn it up loud enough to actually hear it.
Right. Well, that it was a very quiet recording, and I thought it was the cassette, but maybe
no. It's just I think it was the recording of it. Yeah.
And it was back before they like cranked all the levels up to the highest.
Well, and also before they hooked up with Brian Eno, so that changed their recording sound big time.
Right, like the producers on that first album were David Byrne and a couple other people who I'm not. I think Chris France might have been one of the producers too, but they obviously were sort of doing it themselves, and it was when Brian Eno came in as a professional producer that I think cleaned up the whole recording.
So the actual LP that you would buy at the store, the recording on it was at a lower volume altogether.
Yeah.
Oh.
I have a Tom Waits record like that too.
Huh.
It's like infuriating because I make my own mixes of his music, right? My favorite songs, and every time there's like 3 songs on that record that are like barn burners. They're great songs. Hoist That Rag, which is like a pirate song, and they're just so quiet because the way they mastered the fucking record. So it's infuriating. You can't get it loud enough. And also just a travesty because the percussion is so good on that record, and it should be loud.
Well, I'm sure the remasterings of all these things have helped to some degree.
This is like his latest record. His second to last record. We're getting off track.
Sorry. Wrong group. Wrong artist.
Sorry.
I guess I was trying to answer your question of how long I've been listening to them. Kind of taking the long way around there. But so I guess that was probably like 82 that I really started getting into them. So very long time. 37 years.
So do you have periods of time where you like get into them again and like listen to a bunch of their records together, or do you like have times where you just listen to one and get really into it for a little while?
I think when I starting to feel like I need to hear some Talking Heads, especially now with like Spotify or something where it's so easy just to like go to the other albums, I think I go through 3 or 4 of them and
3 or 4 albums.
Yeah, I don't think I repeat the same one so much.
Oh, okay. You'll just go like listen to one.
Yeah,
a couple of them once through,
and then maybe I'll go back again to one I already.
And do you listen to the whole album, or you just like pick out several songs?
Oh no, I always listen to the whole albums. I don't.
I try to.
I don't. I tend not to skip around. I mean, just as a general rule of thumb, I guess I like to listen beginning to end, which is something you and I always. This has come up in our podcast before.
That's not my nature.
You listen to a bit, you skip ahead to the next thing, and I just can't do that. I need to hear it as it was intended. I see the album as like an art form, or at least it was until maybe sometime recently, but I probably still
I think it always goes back and forth. Always, right? In the beginning, like with recorded music, it was singles.
Right. I mean, until the 60s, it was really just a collection of songs, collection of singles. It was convenient to put them all on one thing.
So where are you on that range?
I go both ways.
Yeah.
I mostly like to listen to the full record, but it is hard to find records that are that good start to finish, right? That's a tough.
Yeah, I mean,
tough challenge. I certainly have like a collection of them that I still listen to all the time, start to finish, that I love. And I think I agree with you. I think that's the way it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I sometimes will feel like I need to hear a particular song, and I'll put that on, but that's definitely not my way of doing it. I'll get the CD out, or I'll get the vinyl out, and I even feel bad like just doing side one of the album without doing side two.
Well, unless it depends on what I'm doing. Like if I'm getting ready to go out and I'm like doing makeup time and I just do half, then I've won all the way through, so I don't care if I'm not doing the second half.
Yeah. Well, and you were saying last time, I think when we were talking about Elton John, you were saying that you didn't see albums as making any...
Yeah, so this dialogue that you two are having, you know, that's... Conceptually, I understand it. You know, like I think Dark Side of the Moon and some other like
that's maybe more obvious
epic albums like that are yeah. Exactly. All of those are meant to be listened together, but not necessarily every album. In fact, very few of them are meant to be listened together, at least from my perspective. And so I know you do, and you're enlightening me here. And as I'm listening to Talking Heads, and I listen to these albums, and I kind of start following the actual lyrics and understanding what they're saying and digging the flow. It's suggests to me that perhaps I've been missing out quite a lot.
It's the flow, I think, that I like. I'm not saying that every album has a concept, you know. Obviously they're not all concept albums, they don't all mean something in particular order, but the songs flow in a particular order, the sound of the songs,
there's a momentum. There's a
momentum. Yeah. Like and there's a whole art. There's a whole art to starting.
There's a dramatic arc.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What's the third song on the first side?
Right. And you have to start and end a side with meaning. Like that there's always you don't just end the side with any song. You gotta have one. Yeah. And you have to for side one it always has to be a song that once you put leaving running a little bit more, you know, and then side one's gotta start off with kind of actually side one starts off with
side one has to start out with a good song, but not too good.
Right.
Because usually 2 and 3, either 2 or 3 are like the best song on that side.
Yeah.
And then you need the first song on the second side to also be really badass.
But side 2 for song can be more experimental too, though. It can be a little, because they've already got you.
Right. You're right. That's where
and then the final song on side 2 has to have real closure. You know,
I feel like people often miss on that one.
Oh yeah, well they don't know. I'm not saying it always works.
Yeah.
You know, but I think that's what most people aim for, and the ones that really work well, that they find that. You know, like very obvious choices, the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper, ending with A Day in the Life.
Right.
That's
well, I got a question.
Probably the best last song ever.
Yeah. I mean that's.
Can you think of a better one?
Probably not.
Abbey Road what?
Exactly.
Sorry.
But this is like a pressing question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, do it.
So consider an XY graph, and the song number goes from 1 to 10 on the x-axis, or however many songs are on.
Okay.
And the amplitude, the y-axis, is the particular interest that the song must have along all of those. So what would that graph look like?
The interest, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, you're describing the first song has this, and the second song and.
Well, ideally, you want to have the interest always be there, but it has to be But
you could draw the graph, right?
Well, but it's not just interest; it's like emotional impact, and it's like
right.
energy.
Well,
and sometimes you wonder. Well, and then you'll have like this really high energy, kick-ass song, and then you want to have a quieter song to follow it up to kind of like give you a chance to for a breather. Because if you have too many of those in a row, it's just kind of exhausting. You know?
And something that I'm just realizing now is that a lot of songs that when I listen to the whole record move me incredibly, if I listen to them by themselves, have not the same effect.
Exactly.
Because it's the pacing and it's the build-up.
Right. And a perfect example of that is not actually a Talking Heads song, but it was one we talked about last week with Elton John. Oh, by the way, we have a dog here too, so if you hear barking now and then, that's Sarah's dog, Hunter. It's okay.
It's untrainable.
We don't mind.
He's a fine dog.
He's fine.
He's a friendly, cute little
Super
dog.
cute.
Yeah.
So last week we were talking about Elton John's Captain Fantastic and the Brown Deer Cowboy, which is an amazing album.
I do not know that album.
Such a good album.
So good.
Can you please tell me the name of it again?
Captain Fantastic and the Brown Deer Cowboy.
Jesus, that's preposterous.
Well, it's completely autobiographical. He's Captain Fantastic. Bernie Taupin is the Brown Deer Cowboy.
That doesn't make it any better. It still sounds preposterous.
The graphics
it is.
Are awesome.
Oh, the album cover is preposterous too, but it's awesome.
Okay. Anyway,
It's a great album, but it's the kind of album that does not work as nearly as well individual snippets. So you really have to commit to it as a whole arc.
Yeah.
And the hits, well, they're kind of two hits, the title song, but also Someone Saved My Life Tonight. You familiar with that one? Very kind of dramatic song, but bordering on the edge of cheesy dramatic, but not quite going over that.
He's good with that, though.
Yeah,
Elton John.
He treads
that cheesy.
Right.
When he's powerful, he's powerful, and when he's cheesy.
Well, it gets it right. It's one of the ones where the formula is just right. And that song was a hit, and it's a good song anyway. But when you hear it in the context of the album, it's so much better. It's just like all the songs came before, just lead up to it so much
like I was saying.
more powerfully.
Yeah. The Soft Bulletin works that way for me too.
Yeah.
Like Waiting for Superman is an incredibly powerful song.
Yeah.
When I hear it by itself, it works, but when I hear it in the context of the record, it's like 10 times more.
Right.
From Superman, you said?
Waiting for Superman.
By the Flaming Lips.
Yeah. Sorry, non-talking heads again.
Yes,
Aren't you supposed to keep us on track?
Yes, I'm sorry. So
it's a runaway train.
I mean, well,
one job.
To stick to the album, to stick to the talking heads, we have, there are, like, Fear of Music. Well, we should maybe try to do this more chronologically.
Sure, yes.
We usually like to do that. So
yeah, I respect that.
Let's go back to the Talking Heads 77 then, their first album.
Babies, look at them.
I know, they're just, they look like kids.
I haven't seen that.
By the way, every one of these has the lyrics inside, so if you want to refer to
right on.
lyrics at all, you can.
I mean, I have a hard time telling those guys apart. The drummer
Jerry Harrison and Chris Frantz. That's actually brings up a quick good point. Just talking about the members of the band, we have David Byrne. Everybody knows David Byrne, right? I mean, Tina Weymouth, bass player extraordinaire.
Such a badass.
Well, did you know she learned how to play bass 5 months before they formed, and she was brand new on the bass, but she became so good at it, and very quickly. I mean, like her bass playing. I was reading at least a couple of write-ups where they were saying that her bass playing is like one of the key features of their music.
Yeah,
it's
you can totally tell. She's like pulling all that shit together.
Their sound in a way.
Yeah, it's kind of, I don't know, is it the thread? The musical thread that like the consistency of their songs, because they do a lot of weird stuff in their music and bring a lot of weird instrumentation into it.
And the bass kind of,
I feel like kind of her bass is like
it anchors it.
Pretty steady, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, and she's so funky, and she apparently was one of the, I don't know that this is necessarily true, but I read that she was one of the first female bass players to play with her fingers instead of a pick. Like there had been other. If you try to think back, like early 70s and prior, you can't think of too many rock bands with female bass players. Prior to her, I mean, obviously, like one of the most famous female bass players before her was in the 60s, Carol, not Kane, I want to say Carol Kane, but that's an actress. No, Carol, whatever her last name is, she was a studio musician who played on so many of the big hits of the 60s. There's the whole Wrecking Crew. Have you heard of the? Yeah, she was one of the Wrecking Crew, and she was just an amazing bass player. But I think she played with a pick. But it's just hard to think of too many female bass players who are really well known for that prior to late 70s, whatever. You can think a lot more later, I think. I think a lot more throughout the 80s and 90s and beyond. But so supposedly she was sort of giving a whole new take on finger bass playing. I mean, she just had a whole different attack on it, sort of. And,
well, because she like learned so fast, and then they were just like playing all the time.
Yeah, she just came up with her own style, like that, and she also dances while she's playing, which I like a lot because so many bass players just stand there. They're like, it's like the position, so to speak, that you just expect them not to move. Bass players aren't really known for their dancing. Although Sting is like, I know you don't like the Police, but Sting is different.
Thank you for apologizing.
Yeah, sorry.
I mentioned. How dare you? Wow.
You don't like the Police?
She doesn't.
Not a fit.
I
right now, although I'm learning as I get older, I so much music that I shit talked for years. I am now finding to be good.
If you ever want to give the Police a try, I gave you that folder, that directory.
I wish you could record the face that I'm making.
I know.
I'm not ready. Don't push me.
Okay, but I'm just reminding you.
I'm not ready, Dave.
I'm just reminding you.
I can find their music wherever.
Reminding it's there.
I have Google Play now. I can get any music.
No, that's not my point. My point is that I have cherry-picked the best of the Police, the least embarrassing of the Police.
Favorite
No. This is just the best.
Oh. Well, I already don't believe you.
Anyway.
I'm never going to listen to it.
Okay, fine.
Out of
just to spite me.
Just to spite you.
Yes.
I'd like to take a small side note
Sure.
to talk about the graphic design of this record.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what you
So,
got to say.
1977, this record came out.
Yeah.
This color, this bright neon color is fucking perfect.
Yeah.
The green on top of it is vibrating on top of it like crazy, which is brilliant.
It rocks the eyeballs.
And
man.
this is all caps Times New Roman italic, which went through a period, like Times New Roman went through this period of people hating the fuck out of it. Like, how I can't even think of a thing that's like culturally hated the way Times New Roman was. And then
Sarah's a designer, by the way. I should
I'm getting there.
Graphic designer.
Yeah, and obsessed with typography. And then in the aughts, MTV started doing all caps Times New Roman italic again. So the fact that they did that in 77 is
so far ahead.
super prescient about design.
I think that's one of the things that runs throughout the Talking Heads music is his taste comes through
Yes.
as being like nearly flawless. Well, yeah.
Well,
Pretty close.
So
anyway.
I think I have a theory about it that I just came up with.
Just as valid.
Duh. Everything I say is completely insanely valid. That it's again back to what you said, Eric, about him like knowing his place in the thing that he had purpose to do. That's also a huge part of taste. Like, it's not even so much making a good thing, but it's having complete and utter conviction. Like, people all the time are like, oh, I could never wear that because I could never, like, pull it off. That's bullshit.
Conviction.
It's bullshit. It's bullshit. If you are comfortable the way you are dressed, everyone around you will be comfortable. It's that fucking simple.
Yeah.
So if you can wear a preposterous outfit and be like, I don't care, this is me, I feel like the best me, everyone's going to be totally fine with it.
Anyway, we're off the track here again.
Yeah, sorry, Eric.
Let's talk about some of the best songs on this album.
Yes.
Do you have some favorites there?
You start.
Well, okay. Uh-Oh, Love Comes to Town is a fantastic song.
It's pretty fun.
Great one to start the album with. It just really pulls you right in, and it's light. I know. I mean, some of the songs later in the album get a little like subject-wise get a little heavier, sort of. So I think it was good to start this way, and then. Well, actually, I forgot we could be playing some music here. Mm-hmm. Let's put on a little bit of Uh-Oh, Love Comes to Town. Why don't you talk about it?
I love that song. I think it's hilarious. I love the parts about, like, lawyers and stockbrokers. The stockbroker made a bad investment when love comes to town. It's so great.
That's right. I know.
He's so kind of mean about it.
But to be able to fit that into a song and have it work, it just...
Yeah.
I don't know, it's so brilliant.
Also, it's got such a good funky, like... that part.
Well, and it definitely harkens back to, like, old 60s, like, Motown and soul kind of... rhythms.
It's kind of loose, jangy.
Yeah. But his voice is... let's talk about his voice for a second, because
you had a problem with this.
You had a problem with his voice initially.
I struggled with it, man. I really did.
He's got that... this awkward, high-pitched, quavery kind of thing going on, and I think he was putting on a character. I obviously think he can sing better than that. He did later on, and I think he could have then too. I think he was putting on like a nervous man character that kind of worked with his song subject. And I don't know what his...
What is that, timpani, or like what is that?
Yeah,
steel drum?
Steel drums. Yeah,
never in my life have I liked the steel drum as much as I like it in this song.
I know, it's good.
It's good.
I really, really like the book I read.
Oh, yes.
Because I read a lot, and so I like that makes me think about a boy singing to me about liking me like he likes a book, and that would be very romantic to me.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah, and then the na 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 part obviously is the best thing ever. Na 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 na. So
Well,
fun.
you were just reading words of the song right there just then.
Was I?
Like any? Were you?
No, she was just...
Oh.
No, I'm just talking about it.
Do you not listen to the songs as close enough to hear the...
like Sarah, I've been at this listening to Talking Heads for a very brief period.
Yeah.
And while I've most certainly developed an appreciation for listening to their music, I haven't had the opportunity to like analyze every song yet. it is my intention to do so.
Yeah.
But,
well, yeah, and I think the way you have told me you listen to them is like you put them on in the background while you're doing something else, and that's sort of the way you start out with them. And I think unless you sit down with them a little more closely, it's hard to really get into the. Oh, I'm sorry. Here,
you don't have to put it loud. I'll tell you when to turn it down.
well, it's a Well, I think time is precious, and it's a process. At least.
Yeah. No, I'm not.
I don't think I'm misrepresentative of other people on the planet.
No. I'm not saying it's a wrong way to listen. I'm just saying that's how you do it. And if you're only getting a couple of listens in, it may not be till the third or fourth listen that you actually start to absorb the subject matter. Yeah. Right here.
The piano's so good.
Yes. It is a great combination. Eric, do you have a favorite song on here that you...
I listen to...
Not by title?
Listen to the album. I don't know the songs by name at this point. But I can tell you, I've listened to it many times and I enjoy it every time.
So silly. There's like a... So this... Oh, keep talking. I'll get in there in a minute.
That's all right.
I was going to say, the lyrics in this record remind me of Kraftwerk's first album.
Oh,
They're
really?
very, matter of fact. Like the whole government, living... This is the building...
I don't actually know their
song.
lyrics very good.
It's the same kind of thing. Don't worry about the government. My building has every convenience.
Yeah,
these are the lyrics of the song. It's very Kraftwerk. I'm
very utilitarian. Yeah.
She's a model. She likes having her picture in the magazine.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of.
Which it's very German. Really, it's a very
it's just
Eastern
very
European
removed from.
Yeah.
Now we state the obvious things with no irony.
Exactly. Well, that's what I love. I mean, I love his ability to just do that, and I don't know. It's if I were to write a song with those lyrics, I would think, wow, this is going to be really stupid. People are going to think this is dumb.
Butter as lip gloss.
Exactly. Hey, no, we never thought that was dumb. we owned that.
You owned this.
I owned it.
I thought you meant we never thought that was dumb, as if the group of us didn't think that was dumb, because I had a disagreement.
Yeah.
On that.
Yeah.
I think the group did. Never mind. Let's just keep going.
Shall we judge a song we've never heard before?
Yes.
I don't know. That sounds
yes.
I think we should play it. It sounds really awesome.
No, I'm not doing that.
It's not by the Talking Heads, so we can.
And then there's Psycho
Talking
Killer,
which, right, of course.
Psycho Killer everybody knows. And that was... Actually, I probably heard that even before I heard Take Me to the River, but
yeah.
I don't remember the impact that made one way or the other, but so weird. I mean, so weird that it was a top 40 hit, which it was. And
yeah. Well, the juxtaposition
strange to that time, especially.
The cuteness of the song,
right,
and the lyrics, and then the French.
And then the French, yeah. I don't even understand why he threw the French in there, but...
I think it was a top 40 hit because it's fun to sing to.
It was...
You hear it once halfway through, you can sing along with it, and sang Psycho Killer in a silly voice.
I also think
it's
that
so
there's
fun.
the whole... Fuck.
Right,
Everybody thinks... Well, you hear what the fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think... as a kid, I wasn't sure if that's what he was saying. I was could he be...
he's saying far better, right? Huh? Isn't he saying far better?
No, he's just saying fa.
Oh, I always thought he was saying far, like he was trying to say far, and he was getting to far better. Because the next line starts with the word better.
Better run. Yeah, well, that's one way I look at it, but he only has it written here. Way. Well, it only has it written here as fa.
Yeah,
but
I made a mistake.
Well, he introduces so many weird sounds and words anyway,
so
it wouldn't be uncharacteristic of him.
Yeah. Well, this is a good time to bring up a subject I want to discuss, though, which was your initial... When Eric first started listening to Talking Heads albums, when we started this exercise, he texted me a day or two after starting to and said, I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And I told Sarah about that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can only listen to so much of that kind of music at once. And at first I'm thinking, like, what kind of music? Nobody else sounds like this, and so, I mean, I don't know what you were grouping in with exactly, but you were having some issues, obviously. And so what I did with it was I suggested a playlist. I called out what I thought were the most listenable songs.
Ooh, where is it? Do you have it? Can I compare it to mine?
He has it on his...
I can provide it to you.
Yes. Yeah.
I may even have a picture on my phone right now.
I made my own.
Just from the first 3 albums, because I thought those were probably the ones that he was having the most trouble with. on first listen, but I tried to pick out.
He gave you some training wheels.
He did.
Well, that's
Talking Heads training wheels.
That's a good way to put it. And
how nice! You didn't offer this to me.
I didn't think you needed it.
Cool.
You already have an advanced taste in music. I'm still working on mine.
Oh, I don't know about
well,
that.
and Eric did say that helped initially.
No, it totally did.
And like
cool.
as soon as you started listening to that, it kind of helped make it more accessible or whatever.
Although he suggested cities, and I didn't really dig cities at first. I struggled with cities.
Yes. I love that song, and I think
it's your conviction that turned me around.
Yes. Okay. Well, so you like it?
Because you owned it.
It took me a little while.
Well, I was convinced that Remain in Light and Speaking in Tongues would be much more listenable for you. Although when I listen to Remain in Light again after that, I think, well, I don't know, maybe side 2 is a little too weird. But the turning point was Stop Making Sense.
Watching the
Watching,
video.
we Eric and I watched Stop Making Sense together. I'd seen it before, he had not.
And it was so fucking good.
And it was so fucking good. And it converted him completely. I would say pretty completely to become a fan.
It was such a catalyst.
And it changed the way you heard everything else that you listened to after, right? And so you can go back and listen, like having a picture of him performing on stage and the rest of the band and everything, I think gave you something to tie it all to. And imagine him singing in that weird voice, and which maybe makes it easier when you understand.
I had an appreciation for the character of David Byrne, and that he really was a true freaking musician. Man. Yeah. He was a talented motherfucker.
Oh, yeah.
And everything that he did was his best. It was great.
Yeah.
It was great to learn.
Yeah. So what I thought would be interesting to talk about is just what makes music, I don't know if scary is the right word. Maybe that's too
are you thinking unappealing, maybe?
Unappealing, yeah. It hardly took anything to get you from point A to point C.
I think I can answer that. I might be able to answer that. I think it's expectations. I've known all the songs that Talking Heads did that were top 10 or whatever, and there are a number of them. So I had that expectation that the rest of the songs that I listened to of theirs would be of that quality or that distinction, or whatever that quality was of those songs. And so I go into an album, and I have a different appreciation of albums than you guys. I listen to what's playing. It's been my history anyway. To listen to a whole album, very few occasions have I done that. So it was difficult for me to make that transition and understand that Talking Heads needs to be listened to that way. And it was a very wonderful lesson. And Talking Heads is that band for me now. They taught me that. It's cool. Yeah.
That's cool.
That's rad. I think that if you're getting into their music now, cold, like you and me have been doing, I think the barrier to entry is pretty tough because it doesn't sound like anything else, and his voice sounds weird when you just listen to one or two songs.
Thank you.
I think
yes,
and so you don't have a reference point. Like you hear punk, you hear new wave, and I'm down with both of those things. But then I listen to it, and it's not those things.
Yeah.
And his voice is weird, and there's a fucking steel drum in that goddamn first song on their record. I don't generally like music with steel drums in it.
His voice is probably the thing.
I think also their music is weird.
I think their music is different too.
Yes. Definitely. But if you had somebody with a quote unquote normal voice singing that stuff, it might not have been as interesting, first of all, but also it might have been more easy to pick up on though initially. Like you might have been able to bear with it.
Well, I also think that his voice is way better than you guys are giving him credit for.
Oh no, he's got a great
voice.
No,
even on 77, because if he's not singing in a traditional way that's good, like Elvis or Sinatra or Aretha Franklin, but he is his phrasing is awesome.
Yeah.
His the noises he makes are awesome. He is living in the middle of that music, and his voice goes with the music. And
he's almost always on key too. I mean, it's not a matter of being off key really.
Yeah. So it's a true voice. It's not like Aretha Franklin who has a perfect.
Well, would it be unkind to say that he has a particular range that isn't very broad, but within that range he handles that well? Is that okay to say?
I think that's fine. Yeah. I mean, although he gets better at it as he goes.
He does get better later
matures.
on.
But he's like Elvis
his range
Costello.
broadened
He's got a weird voice, right? Because he's not a traditionally taught singer, and he's also doing his own thing. And then it gets better. Like when I saw Elvis Costello,
his voice is
November,
fantastic.
he sounds so good. It's incredible.
You saw Elvis Costello maybe not too long ago.
I'm struggling with Elvis Costello the same way I am same way I do with Talking Heads.
This is what we have to fix. We have to.
Well, because it doesn't sound like anything else.
It's a similar.
different.
It's a very similar situation,
right?
Yeah, and I remember seeing it with Michelle, St. Michelle, but
yeah, you enjoyed that concert. Really.
I did, you know, but
not. Yeah,
it wasn't to the depth that I enjoyed Talking Heads at this point now. Though.
Oh, yeah, of course
Cool.
not. That was kind of your first time for most of the songs, I think.
Yeah.
So I
That's
mean,
fair
it's
to
a
say.
similar reaction
That's fair to
to
say.
Talking Heads. I just think it's really kind of fascinating to me, like just how you just needed that one like anchor point of understanding David Byrne, and then suddenly it changed the way you heard all of it. Like it wasn't even like familiarity with it so much because I think you hadn't even necessarily listened to it a second time until after the movie, right? I mean, maybe you listened to my playlist, then I made a few again, so maybe 2 times. But I think somehow, I don't know, just sort of feeling like you had a better grasp on who he was kind of changed the way you.
So and another way to say that would be having some sort of visual.
Yeah, being able to picture him
that.
singing or something helps, I think.
And knowing something more about the band, it was 4 people up there, 3 dudes, and the drummer's wife, Tina, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bass player. Did you just refer to her as the drummer's wife?
He did.
I did.
Dude.
That's pretty sexist, wasn't it?
I was gonna.
Like, I'm not saying you are a sexist person, but that was a hella sexist comment.
Yeah.
I was waiting for you to say this.
Damn. Oh, you know, the drummer's wife. Not like one of the most amazing bass players ever.
Yeah.
The drummer's
You
wife.
mean what you should have said was you had the 2 guys
dude.
and the woman. Oh, and the bassist husband. Would you have said that? No.
That's kind of.
Well, there's 3 other males on there, so isolating which of those males.
Yeah, the fact that she was the wife isn't important to the.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
And the female bass player,
I'm embarrassed.
who happened to be.
It's okay.
It's okay. It's a learning experience.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out.
Um,
and your gracious acceptance that I just fucked up. Thank you.
Should we cut it out? No, I'm just kidding.
No, that's wonderful.
No, he gets that one.
I don't know about you guys, but I say dumb shit all the time.
I know whenever I do, you are sure to let me know. And
it's one of my greatest joys at work is pointing out your mistakes.
I know that
Dave, mistake in the same sentence. Come on.
No, I know he really does. That's why I have to jump on them.
I'm trying to figure out who's being more sarcastic here. I hate both of you. Okay. So moving along.
Yes, let's move on.
More songs about buildings and food.
Yay, best record.
Struggle with that one too.
Unbelievably good album.
It's so good though.
Such a funny
it's
record
even better
title.
than the first one, I think. If I had to, I mean, I don't like to have to think about it.
Honestly, whenever the one I'm listening to, I'm like, this is the best one.
No, that's true.
And then I start listening to another one, I'm like, oh no, this is the best one.
That happened.
Well,
yeah, no shit. That's a fact.
Well, it starts off with one of their best first songs, I know, I think. Some more songs about building the food, which, by the way, I am fairly sure, I read somewhere once, that was the album title came from Andy Partridge of XTC, one of my favorite bands of all time. He was friendly with the Talking Heads. I think they toured together. And when they were talking, he was talking with David Byrne about the next album they were working on. And he said, is it going to be more songs about buildings and food? Because I think there's some of that on here.
Yeah.
Some reference to that, huh?
And David Byrne loved it and went with that as the title. So.
That's a great story.
Yeah. So,
and this is only a year after that.
Yeah, very, very
just came
closely. Yep.
And now they're working with Brian Eno, which I think you can hear.
Makes a big difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah.
Like he just like gels the whole thing together and gives it that like.
Yeah. Well, he is such a good producer. I mean, he really is really good. Really good at like bringing out things. He was in Roxy Music. He was the keyboard player in Roxy Music and amazing musician. And back when Roxy Music was in the early days, he dressed so bizarrely. He was like. Couple of the guys in the band did, but they were very glam rockish, you know, but amazing musician. And he went on to do some really great production. He's worked with U2 and can you think of any? Bowie, yes, he worked with some of Bowie's late '70s albums. He's got a very good way of drawing stuff out of bands, and he doesn't flavor it too much with his own style necessarily.
You described it.
We talked about
before,
producers a bit, yeah. Anyway, so let me play the first song on More Songs About Buildings and Food.
Mm-hmm.
I love the way this comes out on the movie. It's just such a great song.
Also, this is a great first song on the band's second record, because second album is traditionally very dangerous.
Sophomore slump.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's just, if any song is galloping, this is definitely a galloping song.
You know, Dave, the experience that I've had with listening to Talking Heads and learning more about the music, this experience, this band that we chose for this, I was hoping to have that same experience when we listened to Joni Mitchell.
Oh, yeah. Kind of this, like, discovery.
Let me push myself through this part that I dislike and find the essence of it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to do that.
Maybe we needed her Stop Making Sense, whatever that might have. She didn't have one, unfortunately.
Having been at this point now with Talking Heads, it really makes a difference for me. So I understand the concept now of moving past my initial.
Right.
Well, but you need that key moment, right? That unlocking thing to happen for you, which is a really interesting thing to think about.
Yeah.
Because then it changes everything else, right? You listen to this stuff and you're like, oh, I don't know, and then you watch the movie and now you listen to the same thing that you listened to before.
Wow,
this time you're like,
different.
Fuck, and you get it.
Yeah.
So that's a really interesting thing to think about.
Right, and like Cities, which is actually my favorite music, and we'll talk about that in a second. But was I right when you went back to it? After
absolutely, man.
Like, did you picture him going like, "Find a city"?
And it's funny you bring that up. I had a new appreciation for the song. There are still some parts of it that kind of like, I can't wait till this little part of the song is over, because I need to move on to the next part of the song.
Wow. Do you actually find yourself thinking that? Do you have time to make that?
We had just had that conversation, so I was feeling very analytical about it.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that's a fair thing to think.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying it's wrong. I just it's funny to find the idea of finding yourself in the middle of a song going, okay, this is a little bit here. Can I get past it? Oh, okay, I'm okay. I'm right now. I can do this. But no, I understand. I mean, because there are certainly songs that I like most of it, and then there's just one part that just is really hard to deal with, and especially some songs where it's, bridges are such an important part of songs, and sometimes a band will have a really good song, but the bridge just doesn't work, and it just
that is a very good example.
What other songs do we like on More Songs About Buildings? Like we like them all, but anything in particular jump out? What's the one? Well, I love Found a Job. Now this one, I could definitely see, if you heard this for the first time, not the voice on this song is especially challenging, I would guess.
God, his voice in this right here is really freaking awesome. Very challenging.
I have the lyrics.
Some weird song.
What's it? Oh, this is warning sign. I love this sound right here. Well, that cassette that I talked about getting from a friend back in high school had, actually, now that I remember it, had both of these albums on it. One side was one album, one side was the other. Because this, and I just remember that because this song, when it was on the cassette in that kind of like lo-fi-ish setting, it was just so. I mean, even here, you can just, it has this aura about it, and it's
very pleasant, yeah.
Well,
Well, that song, Home,
Where I Wanna
Be.
This must be the place.
This ties, it has a very similar sort of
it does,
pleasant roll to it,
yeah. Kind of similar pacing, sort of.
Yeah, this is the fucking bass line, man. She's like driving the whole thing.
Oh, yeah. She was great.
The drummer's right.
Please don't hold that against me.
I'm not. But I do get to make fun of you.
Yes, we do get to.
Okay, man, that's fair.
Come on. You got to deal with that.
I did notice when one of her songs she does she bends one of the notes. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, man! I haven't heard too many bass people do that. It was a nice touch on the song.
I really like the "Take Me to the River" cover on this record. Well, it's kind of mind blowing.
I believe it's one of the best covers as far as like completely make it your own. Like
agreed.
It sounds nothing like the original.
Can you play a little bit of that?
Al Green, right?
Al Green was the original.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll play a little of the original.
This is like, I think this one in the original version are the ones, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's only 2 real.
Isn't there like one version of the song that goes on for like 12 minutes or something like that?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Fuck,
it seems to lend itself to that kind of thing. But it's so much their sound. They completely reconfigured everything to just sound. I don't know. It all comes together so well. The keyboard is fantastic. I just love that. I'll find the original.
What is his dance during this song? This is on the movie, right?
I don't think he's done a lot of dancing at this point. I think he's just sort of like more focused on the singing part.
I love when people sing about cigarettes.
Okay, I'm gonna skip to the original just to play.
Yeah, sure. It's pretty weirdly. The bass line is very close, right? Like the bass vibe.
Yeah.
Good lord.
It's got that drive.
A little more funk.
More fun. More soul.
Okay, we'll go soul.
Stacks kind of.
Yeah.
Junior Park.
Al Green.
Yeah, he's great.
A cousin of mine is going on.
He's still a preacher in Memphis.
Yeah, he's still alive.
Is that right?
His church.
Yeah. He's been Reverend Al Green for ages, decades.
No shit.
Yeah.
How is it possible that David Byrne's singing can also embody this song so effectively?
How did he hear this and think, okay, I want to dismantle it, take it apart into these, like the horn part completely disappears, really, and just becomes a swampy kind of, maybe appropriate for river or whatever, but just like, I don't know, I just don't know how he heard it so differently.
I know the Talking Heads version better than this version.
Yeah.
Even with my limited listening of their music.
Yeah. Well, it was a big hit.
I really like Al Green.
Yeah. Oh, no, I wanted to play one more song. Yeah. The Big Country. The final song on there. It's important, I think, because it's a completely different sound from the rest of the album, I think. And it really hints at what they did later. Especially True Stories, but we didn't include that as part of our overview. It brings country into the mix.
As I was looking at the playlist, I was always finding myself looking forward to when Big Country would come on the playlist.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it's such a good song, but it's definitely very country influenced. But it has this huge sound to it. It feels like you're driving cross country in the huge horizon. It does feel like the big country, the big sky country.
I'm not super into this song.
Really?
It really takes me out of the experience of the rest of them.
Is that right?
It is different. Well, as I said, it's a very different sound, but it's a good one. I think they couldn't put it anywhere else in the album except the end. I think it had to go there if it's going to go anywhere.
Right,
because in the middle. Okay, yeah, fair enough.
I like his voice in this one. It just kind of stretches.
Yeah. I just like the feel of this.
For a while.
I like the feel of this. The mood is great, and I think, but it definitely kind of jumps ahead in their catalog all the way up to Little Creatures or True Stories, really. Little Creatures was before True Stories, so yeah, Little Creatures. But it almost, you could almost take this song and put it on Little Creatures and it would have fit, which is weird because.
What album are we on right now? What is it?
We're on the third album. Second album, sorry.
What's it called?
More Songs About Buildings and Food.
More Songs About Buildings and Food.
Yes. So let's move ahead to Fear of Music.
Which the name of the album had a great story.
Yeah. Yes. So Fear of Music gets really a little weirder, I think. It's like much more experimental. And
the album is really awesome. It has kind of like this
textured steel flooring.
Yeah, that's really cool, like feel to it.
Yeah, we have the vinyl albums of some of these.
Yeah. The
plated
embossing
steel
on
or
it.
something.
It's just
That
like,
embossing's awesome.
yeah, just blind embossing, so there's no ink.
So, and you also had very positive things to say about that.
Oh
design,
yeah,
too.
that
It was,
also that record cover looks like something from the 90s.
Yeah.
In like the purest way the men would be reproduced
Way ahead of
now.
their time, much
yeah.
like
Yeah.
how you were
Same
describing
thing.
that.
Yeah, all of these record designs are like amazing. Like this, the More Songs About Buildings and Food, of course, has this like photo mosaic
Yeah.
image of the United States on the back, which is the first of its kind.
It's
ever
kind of
produced.
cool, man.
It's really, really cool.
I was mesmerized. by it for a
Interesting.
moment.
That
And
is,
then this,
yeah.
the cover is taken up from like 300 some Polaroids,
Is that right?
like real ones.
I
No
yeah,
shit.
and they're
Oh,
together.
that's great.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, super cool.
That took a lot of work.
Yeah, yeah.
That's very
I would
cool.
love to know how they did that.
They just lay them. I mean, clearly they're like standing or whatever, and then they just you take the one. And then
But
you
were
take
the,
next
were
one
the
and
guys
you take
standing
the
there with a red background behind them?
next one. Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
think so.
yeah, totally.
Yeah?
Yeah, but from a backdrop, like in a photo studio.
Yeah.
and then you just like click, 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 click,
Yeah.
and then you.
But there's only like 6 cartridges per package, so,
Well, yeah,
so
you
you
gotta
have to
keep
wait.
So a lot of film,
Yeah. It took a while. Yeah, photo shoots always take a while. though.
I guess they do.
That album was conceived by Jerry Harrison.
Which,
This is David
Theory
Byrne.
of Music.
That's Jerry Harrison. This is David Byrne.
What I find really interesting
No,
about,
actually, I'll read it
about,
later. That's a good
about
idea.
this record,
Thank you, though.
Theory of
what?
Music,
Yes.
is how most of the songs' titles are one word.
Yeah,
Oh.
that is something I have noticed in
Strange.
the past. Yeah.
It's definitely like strange compared to the rest of the record.
Well, you know who else did that? Who picked up on that? Radiohead has a lot of albums like that, or a lot of songs like that too.
One
Here's another story. Maybe you know this.
No.
Radiohead named themselves after a song by the Talking Heads on True Stories.
Ooh.
The on the True Stories album. which
I
have
did
here.
not know that.
The song is Radiohead, but it's 2 words. Radiohead.
I really like the song Drugs.
I
Let's
like
play
that
it.
song
Let's-
also.
Yeah,
Let's play
it's
that one
super
right
cool.
now.
The intro's great.
That's the final song on the album.
Stepping over here.
Oh yeah,
This is on my
so atmospheric.
Talking Heads playlist that I made.
Oh,
Yeah,
so is your playlist your favorite songs from each album?
so far, yeah.
How many do you pick from each album?
As many as I want.
Whatever
as
you
I
feel,
like.
what the hell
Yeah,
you
I
feel.
have 4 from this one.
Yeah, Cities and Life During Wartime. Awesome. That's, the book I read. That's an awesome. That's also one of my favorites in that.
We
album,
talked
too.
about that
Was that-
today. We just listened to it.
I know.
It's on the recording.
You're right. It probably is. I'm sorry. I forgot we did that one. I can't expect you to remember everything. You know.
It was like an hour ago.
Yeah, I know. So Cities. Here's the one that Eric had so
Tell him,
much
Sarah.
Yeah.
trouble with initially, but
Cities?
oh, it fades in. I love how it fades in. Actually, I don't know why.
Yeah.
There has,
Yeah.
you guys might agree with me in fact.
Not
There's a
so-
part of the song that
Okay, you.
I struggle.
I just I love the lyrics. To this.
It's like the last half of the song.
I love the lyrics too.
You don't make me
No.
Is Sarah agreeing with me? That,
Which part?
No, she was disagreeing with my singing along with the lyrics.
oh.
She was telling me to stop.
On a recording.
Which no, I'm
That's
completely. Like sometimes I can't help myself. That's all.
I respect that.
Is it something to do with the?
There's a part where he like starts hitting some high notes.
Yeah.
High notes that I find just a little much for me.
That's so good. So mine, you had that on your. Oh yeah.
Yeah, this also.
This is awesome.
How do you feel about Ezimbra? Are you a fan of that?
You know, I know that I like the first song on that album,
That's-
and it's apparently Ezimbra.
Yeah.
I can identify it as a. I couldn't replicate what it sounds like right now, but I really like it.
Here we go.
Does that make sense?
One thing I think about sometimes with listening to some of this period of Talking Heads is how David Byrne has incorporated, I guess, African music really, compared to how
drum beats,
compared to how Paul Simon did it.
Huh.
And
that's a really interesting
nice comparison.
I think David Byrne's way of doing it, he kind of inhabits the music more, whereas Paul Simon uses it to achieve a certain effect in his songs.
Great.
It's kind of more.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And David Byrne just like lives it. I mean, it kind of just he kind of absorbs it and just it comes back out of him in this form. So he kind of completely he changes it a bit.
So it's almost like it becomes a vehicle
himself,
to also produce it.
He adds himself into it, and that's what he ends up with. Paul Simon.
Awesome.
I mean, I love some of what Paul Simon has done with it too, but I think it's not as. It's definitely just
more academic.
Yeah.
Which I think you can feel. Like I don't think his music has the kind of soul that this music has to it.
It's a whole different listening experience.
Yeah.
Wow, I would not have been able to articulate that, but that's exactly how I feel about it also. That's really great. Yeah.
Well, and he has that, Paul Simon has Rhythm of the Saints, which I think was his best example of using. Although, I mean, Graceland had a lot of it too, but that was a variety of different ethnicities brought into there. There was Mexican, there was some African, there was a lot of stuff. I think Rhythm of the Saints was more focused on African, so that's sort of what a little more what I'm thinking of.
Just thumbing through David Byrne's book right there, How Music Works.
Sarah read this book, and we did not. So, do you have anything particular that's worth?
I'm only part of the way through it.
Oh, okay.
I've been carrying.
Is that your bookmark right there?
It? Yeah, because there's a lot of information in there about the autobiography of the band itself, right? Like how they started, like as we go through. But more, it's like a big picture idea of what music is and how it works and why it affects people the way it does.
Interesting.
Right? So the parts that I've gotten into so far are like about how he and other like musicologists have theories about how music has been developed because of the spaces that it's been played in. That's the thing that changes.
The spaces that it's
played in.
Right.
That's the thing that changes the instrumentation and the style of music that gets written. Because
the physical spaces.
Totally. Like if you're in a cave and you have like simple drums.
Yeah.
You're gonna have simple drums because you're in a cave and because of the echoes and stuff like that.
Right.
If you're in a cathedral, a Gothic cathedral, that's basically an enormous cave. You're gonna have an organ and you're gonna have other things, right? Because you're gonna play to that space.
Yeah.
If you have an opera house, you're gonna play to the space kind of thing. And he talks about the Talking Heads playing in Carnegie Hall and how it was a terrible fit for their musical style, and their music didn't sound good in that space because of the wideness and the openness of it. It's a beautiful space. It's a great performing thing. He's like, well, we would never play there again just because it sounded terrible, because our music is not designed to be in that space. They started in CBGB, which is basically starting in a cave.
That's perfect for that music. It's
like small, and you can see what everybody's doing on stage because it's small enough also for that, and that affects like how they performed on stage later, right? Because they're so theatrical kind of, because they started in a place where everybody could see up close what they were doing.
It brings up a good point. Like for I'm talking Head 77 in particular, actually the second album too. The songs feel small to me. Like there's something about like they just feel maybe not claustrophobic exactly, but just they feel
like they're
tiny.
coming from a small space.
Tiny, compact.
Yeah, definitely.
Like you fit them in a closet or something.
What are the characteristics that you pick up on that indicate that? What is it about this music?
It definitely would be the percussion, right? It's
percussion,
not
there's not a lot of reverb.
Sound.
There's not a lot of reverb. It's very tight, kind of close sounding living room. It sounds like it could be in a living room, And that's why I think like Big Country is so different at the end of More Songs About Buildings and Food, because it's got that big, expansive feel to it. Maybe that's why it stands out as maybe not fitting in.
Other stuff, just by even not just the genre of the song itself, but like
just the size of the song.
That's a great quality, and that characteristic could describe much of their music.
Yeah,
perhaps any music, I guess. But I'm so much more familiar with Talking Heads at this point. It seems to me that some of their trends in their albums were more expansive than others, and I don't know if that was a evolution of time or.
Well, like speaking in tongues is totally different. I think that doesn't feel small to me at all. It feels big and.
Once Eno gets involved, it stops feeling.
Did he produce Speaking in Tongues also?
He did 3.
Yeah, so I think it was Remain in Light.
Food.
Yeah. So it stopped to Remain in Light. So
yeah, no, they split with Brian Eno before they did
right.
Speaking in Tongues, and they also all did like side projects.
The Tom Tom Club.
Yeah. I'm quite fond of that song.
Tom Tom Club.
Yeah,
it's alright.
It was fun.
It's no Talking Heads.
Yeah.
Okay, there's something about that song that made a big impression on me because that's a song that is like in a Mariah Carey song that I know.
Oh yeah. She sampled.
Sampled?
Yeah, which kind of surprised me a lot.
Yeah, she sampled. It's been sampled by.
So that was Tina
Grandmaster Flash too.
Chris France. Yeah, that's crazy. We were talking about.
We
were talking about Brian Eno.
Did you figure out who actually did produce? I'm just curious.
Sorry, I got sidetracked on Tom.
Self-produced, or I don't think it was. Speaking in Tongues has a completely different. It's much bolder, like brassier, kind of. I think in general. I mean, not this. Like This Must Be the Place is not like that. But you have like Burning the House and Girlfriend is Better and Slippery People and it's just all these kind of.
There's a lot of great songs on
it. Yeah, it's a fantastic album. Very catchy. Probably one of their most out and out appealing.
Well, it took listening to Speaking in Tongues several times, and also watching the movie. That was the other catalyst. Right, but having listened to Speaking in Tongues, it gave me appreciation of their type of music, and I was able to take that back to when I listened to the earlier albums and apply that understanding of their music, and I all of a sudden had a totally new appreciation of it.
Right.
But it, I needed to be like we were talking earlier. I needed to be like training wheels or something like I was talking about.
Well, and you probably saw how those songs were the precursors for the ones you liked so much on Speaking in Tongues. When you went back to the earlier songs,
hearing your analysis of that, it makes me think about it some more. I'm not drawn to that explanation at this point, but
give it time.
Your understanding of it, I'll think about it.
Well, let's move to.
I'll get there. I'll get there, dude.
We're gonna move to Remain in Light, which I think, pretty sure is my favorite Talking Heads album.
Yeah, it's a freaking great album
because it is so amazing. I was actually gonna text both of you guys during this a few days ago. I was gonna present a question for us to consider for this. Something to the effect of Cross-Eyed and Painless and The Great Curve are best 1-2 combination Talking Heads albums. But it's a hard one to think about because there's so many potential other possibilities. But I just think the way one goes into the other is just because Cross-Eyed and Painless, such an amazing song. I just said that. But the way it starts, bam, it's there's no lead up, there's no, and it just that guitar is so perfect, so tight, and just adds just the right accent to everything else. And that bass. Let's talk about the bass. We're going to talk about amazing bass.
Yeah. Oh my god, I know.
Who's the bassist?
I believe it's the drummer's wife.
Is that right?
Or maybe it was the bassist's husband. No, wait.
This record sounds serious to me, more serious.
Yes, well, that's true. It's true. It does get a lot more serious. I think. Well, I don't know. Fear of Music kind of.
Well, no, I mean, I don't know. For some reason, this record to me sounds like they're okay, now we're gonna make some fucking music.
We're gonna kick some fucking.
Something
right.
The muscle, the muscle.
I was just about to say it's more muscular.
Muscle.
It is so muscular.
Yeah.
It's
muscular.
This song is so muscular.
Yeah.
It's got so much it's just taut.
Man.
Yeah.
The skin is bulgy.
Yeah. Pumping iron. David Byrne. Can you imagine David Byrne?
No.
Bench pressing.
So skinny.
No, that's wrong. And I love his singing on this too, and I don't know, it's just such a great song.
And also maybe this record, his singing sounds the most perfectly integrated with the music of it somehow.
Yeah.
There's a thing that's happening on this record. Things are falling into place in a big way.
Yes, I think they completely found their voice. They're as a band. I mean, we keep saying he, him, like all this is his doing.
It's not. I mean,
It's
he wrote
not.
the lyrics.
He wrote the lyrics. I mean, you got to give him credit for starting, writing the songs, but the rest of the band is just as responsible for the sound as he is. I mean, he didn't tell them all what to do, I'm pretty sure. So, they've all added their...
This is equal credit, all song credits to David Byrne and Brian Eno.
Brian Eno...
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know why. Brian Eno did a lot of looping on this album. Like a lot of these things you're hearing, he's taking little snippets that they record and then he looped them again and again. So, pretty sure like this song they didn't necessarily have to play it all the way through, although obviously they did in concert, but for the recording I'm pretty sure he I think it's the song and the Great Curve in particular are looped. But I think he also did a lot of loops with like some of the background atmospheric sounds you hear in other songs in the song. So I guess that must be, unless he is a songwriter in his own right, so maybe he actually did some real songwriting too. I don't know. So I'm going to skip to the end here.
I had an epiphany as I was listening to this album today, and in fact, it might have even been this song I was listening at the time. One of the things that David Byrne's, one of his skills, one of his profound, really wonderful skills, is that he didn't allow himself to get in the way of the music. And oftentimes the music would play, and he'd like stand back and do whatever he does, and the other artists in the band.
You're also talking about like the live performance then.
Well, that also. But even on some of his other songs of the recorded albums, he shuts the fuck up, and he lets the music play. And that's kind of
it's true.
It's kind of nice to witness that.
He doesn't try to like take too much control of the song. Usually.
Well, there's not a lot of bandstanding in this.
Right.
Grandstanding?
Grandstanding kind of works.
Yeah, because when they first started, they were like, no guitar solos.
Right. Well, in fact, I don't
know.
No
singing like a black man. Seriously.
Was that one of their...
Yeah,
I didn't read it.
He says that,
What are you talking about? What do you mean by that?
When they started their band, he was like, these are things that we're never going to do.
Yeah.
We're never going to have a guitar solo. And I'm never going to try to sing like
These are deal breakers. We're not doing this.
Yeah.
Well, and you can hear
that. What was the second thing? Not sing like a black man.
I'm never going to sing like a black man.
What does that mean?
Well, listen to his voice.
He
sounds like himself.
He just sounds like himself. Like, as opposed to like
he's not trying
a
to
lot
sound
of British bands from the 70s that like there was that tour, right, of like old blues singers that went through England and Europe, and all those dudes were kids, and they saw these guys come through, and it blew their fucking minds.
Mick Jagger is trying to sound like a black guy. I mean, that is his singing style.
Wow.
Because at the time when people didn't know them yet, they thought that was a black guy singing, and it's just because he's picked up on the whole like throaty, soulful.
Yeah.
And nothing wrong with that. It's a whole different thing.
Well, I mean,
but David Byrne recognized this as something that was
that people were doing as an affectation.
Right.
Yeah.
And he wasn't going to do that.
Yeah. Kind of like how American punk bands would sing with British accents, right?
Yeah.
Well, is that not resonant of integrity, man? I mean, this guy was going to be who he was, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those like, it's a person making an arbitrary rule for themselves, which I really respect. I like when people are like, I have decided that this thing, I'm never going to do this thing.
Yeah, I had never heard that, but that completely makes sense, knowing their music. And
well, the way that he put it, though, it gives singing like a black man a negative connotation, no?
I mean, I think possibly he was thinking that for other white singers to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Stop trying to sound like something else that you're not,
Yeah, like something you're not or something else.
I had to pause that song just before
we
got into the words. Just about to
do it. We're making a transition at that point.
Okay, so here's the last 15 seconds. Oh, really here or there. Fades out. Where is it? And again, two songs in a row that just like punch you in the gut right as they start. There's no waiting, no easing into it. It's just bam. And I think that in a way, listening just then for that transition seemed like a longer transition. But when you're not paying that close attention to it, that transition is much more effective.
It's quicker.
Yeah, it sounds quicker. This is such a funky thing. And again, it's that bass. I mean, you listen to it, there's all this stuff going on, but that bass line is just holding that whole thing down.
So when they had background vocals, and there was one song that it sounded like they had a lot of people for background vocals, and not just
I think
two women that we
sometimes
saw in the video.
sometimes Tina sings some of the backing, not this though.
Yeah.
This is Nona Hendrix. I looked at that, and who?
Was she in the movie?
No, she was not one of the ones in the movie. She was in LaBelle, I believe. I think it was the band with Patti LaBelle, and she sang Voulez-vous coucher avec moi.
Oh, no way.
I'm pretty sure that's
I
where
thought
she's
it was Lady
from.
Marmalade that sang that song.
No, that's the song.
Oh, right. That's
Lady Marmalade.
the song.
Yeah, that's the name of the song. It's by LaBelle. And Eric Shake
You're
is...
amazing.
I'm super
So I'm pretty sure Nona Hendrix is one of the LaBelle members. But anyway, so she sings a lot of the backing in here, the female parts. Tina doesn't have that kind of depth in her voice. She has a much thinner, reedy kind of voice. It works for some of the earlier stuff, but it wouldn't impress an interesting thing, every time I read about this album, polyrhythmic keeps coming up.
Oh, what does that mean?
And I was thinking, yeah, that completely makes sense. But at the same time, I wasn't really sure what that meant specifically. Like, lots of rhythms going on. But I actually looked it up, and it's an actual music theory terminology, whatever. It's when you layer different rhythms with different tempos to achieve a whole new thing. They'll work together and like to become syncopated and everything, but each separate part of the rhythm may sound just
So
like this.
what about the song that exemplifies that? The guitar?
Yeah, it's a little, like it doesn't have to be just drums. It's like it could be any part of any instrument. So here I would say it's like a little keyboard thing you're hearing, plus the bass going and then the little guitar is going but
And the horns too, right?
yeah, I mean it's all meshing together and to form this one whole. And it's really hard if you're not thinking about it. It's hard to pick it apart.
Yeah, because they're all kind of differently.
Yeah, it feels like this one rhythm, but really you could break it down to all these different rhythm patterns. And that doesn't really happen in every song. I mean, a lot of rock songs, everything's following the drum and bass, like the guitar, basically, except for maybe a lead solo. But even that does, But these are independent of each other and just coming together meshed together into this whole piece. And when it was explained that way, it really made a lot more sense to me. Like, oh, that's a song.
That's what's happening.
Yeah.
Again, I don't listen to a lot of stuff that's like this.
Yeah.
So it's like it took me a while to dig on it, to really get into it.
Yeah. When I was in college, I met this guy. He introduced me to some new music, and one of the things he said about it that made me be able to appreciate it so much faster was he didn't really consider the people's voices, their singing, as listen to the words they have to say, whatever. It was more that they were another instrument in the song.
Sure.
It was just like the sound. And David Byrne, his contribution to much of his music is that. It's not so much what he's saying,
right,
but the way he presents his voice in the sound to complement the rest of the musicians.
Which is totally true, because that's how he writes the lyrics. Like, he does this, like, speaking in tongue glossolalia style where he just makes, when they're writing the music, sounds. He just makes sounds and then writes the lyrics later. Yeah. Like, that's how they write the songs. They start with, like, a little bit, and then he'll just make noises and syncopations and stuff like that.
And then
which is why I feel
shit.
Yeah, so what you're saying, that fits in with what you're saying, and, like, what I hear about his voice fitting so well into the music rhymthmically, like having these weird little punchy, like, perfect things, even though he's not a good singer,
right,
like a beautiful singer,
right,
he's still.
Well, I think in like that song in particular, the Great Curve we were just listening to, you have all those like backing vocals. They're completely just being instruments. They're they're just making these like kind of
just sounds
to
like resonating.
Yeah, even and what he's doing is just kind of like singing along. He's not. I mean, I think he's saying words. So after that song, we have it's the first song on the second side is "Once in a Lifetime," which is such an amazing song. Of course.
Yeah. The first time I listened to this record, like, I just, was going in order.
Yeah.
And then this song starts, and I was just like, mind blowing.
It's a mind blowing tune, for
right?
sure.
Especially when it's in context with the other songs, right?
Yes, and that's the thing.
That makes it even better.
Oh.
And this is almost one instance where, well, on the CD, it almost works even better than on the album.
Right, because you don't have to flip it. I was thinking that.
Well, and that previous song leads into this so nicely. And this is a great starting song for the second side.
Oh,
too.
is this a second candidate, maybe, for the one song lead to the other?
Well, you might as well just string them all together then. It's three songs. The best 1, 2, 3 combination in any of their,
I also like the lyric, water flowing underground.
I love that.
Is so primal. It's so powerful and so primal. There's something very strange about it. Like, because divining water is a thing, right? We're using divining rod to find water, and water is life. And like when there's water on the ground, like that's where you make like a city, a settlement, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, and that's wow. And it has the what is it? Oh, water dissolving, water removed, carry the water, remove the water, and just. Sure what that really means, you know, but it just sounded.
It feels like a rallying cry, doesn't it? It feels like something anyone in human being could just be like, yes, that thing.
There's water.
Well, is this the same song? That's the same song that you talk about water at the bottom of the ocean. Of course there is. That was what my response to it, but I'm trying to find some other understanding of what he means by it.
Here it goes.
Of course.
Oh, under the water.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
And it perfectly embodies to me what I think the best music lyrics are, that they are simultaneously so mundane and so powerful.
Yeah.
And that's what the best rock songs do.
Yeah.
Like, they give you the moment of, like, you feel like it's power and it's a thing you can say at any mood that you're having, but it also kind of says nothing. Water under the bottom of the ocean.
Right, and just reading them, it would not be the same thing as hearing it in the context of the song. I mean, well, definitely there's this whole water theme here, but I don't even know where it fits into the rest of the stuff, which about the, the whole, you may ask yourself, how do I work this? Where does this highway go to?
Where's my beautiful, who is my beautiful wife?
And I don't really know what the connection is between that stuff and the water stuff, but you don't really care either, because, I mean, it just all works. It feels like it belongs together. So
I can imagine having a dinner party at my place and 6 or 8 people there, and we're all drinking and eating food, and Talking Heads can be in the background, and it would be perfect.
Yeah,
definitely.
And some of it would be great for a dance party, or you're like
yeah
strobe lights, crystal ball, and As you were talking, I was glancing down at my notes here, and
I'm done.
I just remembered something I thought about a song on their first albums, "Found a Job," which I played a little bit of. It's not just that song, but it made me. As I was listening, I suddenly thought, "This is nerd funk." It's like
let's listen to. Can we hear some of it?
That's so funny.
Well, I felt like I'd come up with a new genre.
That's great. Dude.
Yeah. I was pretty excited about that, because it really, to me, it kind of described it very well.
Yeah, no, it's
and it kind of talks about like
that's really good.
Him sounding like that.
And it fits with the costuming of the
right.
Because basically, like, you could almost say that their style in that can stop making sense as normcore. So like, funk is a better version.
Like, here's the song that I was listening to. When I thought about that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so funky, but he's such a nerd, you know. It's like
Can we do it?
so proudly nerd. Yeah, my nose. Don't take them out again.
This isn't from '77.
No, it's Worst Songs by Brothers.
Good notes, man.
Jerry Harrison. He came from the Modern Lovers, which was Jonathan Richman in the Modern Lovers. You familiar? Does that ring any bells to you? He's partly responsible for one of the greatest songs of all time, and the organ in that song, which makes it what it is, Roadrunner.
I know that song.
Yeah, and so that's Jerry Harrison playing keyboard in there.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
This is good.
This is actually often given credit as being one of the first. I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of songs, I guess, that are given credit for. It's one of the early punk influences. Because
sure.
Ramones, Sex Pistols, they all talk about this song.
Is that right?
Yeah, when they say what influenced them. When this hit, it was like 73, I think.
70. Who is this?
Jonathan Richman in the Modern Lovers. He was from Boston. I know him pretty well. I saw him live.
You know him? You know this guy?
Not personally, yeah. He was on the Boston music scene for years. He only was with the Modern Lovers for like one album. So this album is fantastic. It has Pablo Picasso. Do you know that song? Mm-hmm. I mean, of course, Pablo Picasso was never called an asshole, and it's a funny little song. But
it's a funny title.
And but this song just like put them on the map. In a way, they may be considered a one-hit wonder, although I'm not sure how much of a hit this was. But it's on the radio.
It has a great beat to it.
Yeah.
It's like a surfer thing. It has a bit of a surfer thing.
Yeah. Talk about great driving song. This you just
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
So Jerry Harrison, getting back to this, is responsible for that organ, which is a key component of that song. And so Jonathan Richman broke up the Modern Lovers right around the time that they were Talking Heads were looking for a keyboard player, because David Byrne formed the Talking Heads with Gina Weymouth and Chris France. It started with Chris
They were in
France.
school together, right?
Yeah. The RISD, Rhode Island School of Design.
Art school.
Yeah.
So it might be like art nerd funk.
Yeah, sure, that definitely works. So and then they brought Tina in, and then Jerry, but just a little bit of Jerry Harrison history there. Should we move on to Speaking in Tongues?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I just had an epiphany I'd love to share with you guys. You know, coming back to that comment that I made earlier about the chick that is the drummer's wife. I'm still struggling with it. I'm embarrassed by that, and now I understand it better, and I
You understand the way. Okay.
Why I said that, and you know, my work and my life has been around people who are unenlightened. I feel like, anyway. You know, I work with construction workers, and I grew up in Texas, and these things. That's how I'm used to expressing that to the audience that I typically have. And now I'm around some other enlightened people, and I'm realizing I don't need to say that kind of thing to.
I would say you probably don't even need to say it to them either, but you know.
I kind of second that. Like.
Yeah,
you don't have to play to your audience.
In fact,
all the time.
enlighten them by making women seem like they're on the equal.
That's really wonderful. Yes,
plane.
indeed, man. That is a fucking awesome, great.
I mean, I see where you're coming from. I worked at a union print shop for 6 years. And like I was buddies with a bunch of dudes that worked on the presses.
Yeah.
So I know what you're talking about.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And it's tough. It is tough. It's easy for me and David right now to say like, no, man, say it the way that you need it. But you're right.
Yeah,
like, it's tough. Like
right.
I get it too. It's very clannish in those atmospheres, and it's much easier to be like pals with everybody and talk the way they talk.
We were talking about Speaking in Tongues now, which was by all standards their most successful album. Well, actually, not by all.
No, actually, I think
was Little Creatures
Remains
actually
in Light might have been.
I don't think so.
Their best-selling.
No.
Just keep talking.
I am. I think Little Creatures may have actually ended up being their best-selling, but Speaking in Tongues was their commercial breakthrough. I mean, they had hits, obviously, like During Wartime, Once in a Lifetime, all the others. But this was like, I was in college when this came out, and it was played everywhere. Everybody had this album. Okay, not literally everybody. Was it? But at this time, I think this one, up to this point, was their best song. And I just remember hearing it all over, like every dorm you'd go into, you'd be burning down the house, Girlfriend is Better, every frat party you'd go to, or any party.
Those are cool frat parties. Frat parties at my college didn't play that shit.
Yeah, these are a little more advanced frat boys, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. It's just such a catchy song. I think it appeals to so many different types of people. It's one of those things that, you know, maybe.
I recall even hearing those songs when I was going to school in Texas.
You do remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Burning Down the House had, for some reason, had very wide appeal. I think maybe the lyrics weren't as challenging as some of the lyrics that came before. in their music. I mean, they were a little more front and center, a little more. They made a little more sense to the quote unquote average listener who didn't want to have to think too hard about their. And you could kind of give it any.
That's fair to say, yeah.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
You can kind of give it any meaning you choose.
And they were
literal
catchy.
as you want about it. Yeah, I mean,
you could like you were talking about some of their other music earlier. It was catchy, and you could sing along with it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Easy to sing along to.
Mm-hmm.
The whole album is extremely danceable, but it's funky in a whole different way. It's not as like, let's go to Making Flippy Floppy.
Mm-hmm.
That song cracks me
fun.
up, man. The title alone is just funny.
Yeah.
Get in line. Nothing can come between us.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like listening
frenetic.
to a Prince song.
Yes.
Or like Rick James.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And you know what I think
exactly,
it is?
man.
And I think it's kind of like you hear the bass, but it's not as deep in like what you hear more as the rhythm throughout is the little guitar scratching, guitar scratch.
Which is also very funky.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's present in like a lot of Harlem and Funkadelic stuff, and you get the little chicken scratchy guitar, and I think that in a way replaces the whole bass line needing to be quite as prominent. Like that, it kind of leads the rhythm of the funk. And well, here let me.
Well, that was an appreciation of the music that I didn't expect, and that was as much as I like funk, that these guys satisfied my desire for funk. It was really cool. I was surprised by that. It was beyond my expectations.
Yeah,
very satisfying.
Right. I mean, you don't often hear them described as a funk band.
No.
But they are so funky.
Totally.
And
it's like some serious ass funk.
You could call them a funk band, and it wouldn't be wrong.
Right.
It wouldn't tell you everything about them, of course. But so let's do "Girlfriend Is Better." It's an awesome song.
And that drum beat is so new wave.
It is. It could almost just be a drum machine.
Yeah. It's okay. Oh yeah, that's right.
And this is such a great song in the movie too. His performance. That's the other thing. A lot of the bass in some of these songs is done by the keyboard. And actually, in the movie, you see her at that little whatever that thing is.
What the hell is that thing? Yeah.
I don't really know what you call it. I'm not sure.
But it has a great
bass
sound.
keyboard. Yeah.
I've heard it through a number of their songs.
And his voice here, it's a really good meshing of like the early David Byrne, the weird skittery, quavery voice, but the more mature David Byrne too. It's like he's brought that voice into the later version of himself. And Slippery People is another. I mean, it's just this whole side one is just fantastic. It's like it just doesn't really let up. You just play this whole side and take care of a good 20 minutes of your dance party right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man.
Good dance party.
Yeah. And here again, you get that little
Yeah. Chicken scratch guitar.
chicken scratch guitar. I think it is. Yeah.
It reminds me of like a thing I saw at at Sun Studios once, but that was someone playing a guitar like Johnny Cash. It's a whole other thing.
Were they playing scratch though?
They had some chickens wandering around.
It was like a rhythmic style of playing where I think he stuck like a playing card in the fret or something.
Oh.
And it was like a really super rhythmic, like ding chicka ding chicka ding.
Oh,
What was he doing?
Fast rhythmic.
Yes, like
What was it? The card?
I think he put a playing card in the fret.
to affect the sound.
Maybe.
Was he moving it? I wonder if he was moving it around.
No, I don't think so. I mean, not the kid that I saw.
You know what? It was probably muting. It was preventing the strings from like ringing out.
Reverberating.
Yeah,
so they're just like choppy and short and
So,
rhythmic.
so between the strings and the fretboard, and he was playing that way.
Yeah, it was kind of like in, trying to in and out, not just behind because it would just slide right there. Yeah, it had to be interwoven, sort of. I think. So it probably just completely muted that
I'm
sound.
totally curious about that.
Yeah, we'll have to try this sometime.
Yeah,
Well,
I bet on an electric guitar makes a difference.
Yes, yeah.
big time.
When I went on the tour at Sun Studio, there was a kid that was talking about Johnny Cash coming up with this method of playing,
Mm-hmm.
and he like demonstrated it. And instead of taking the guitar and playing it like this, he knelt and put the guitar on his shoulder. So he was holding the fret with his arm almost straight up, and the guitar was balanced on his shoulder, and he bowed his head, and then like.
I think I've seen him do that. It was in the Johnny Cash movie.
Walk the Line.
Maybe he did. I don't know, but it seemed like that kid was like bowing in respect to being in Sun Studio and playing a guitar like Johnny Cash.
As one should.
Amazing, yeah. Anyway, getting back to Talking Heads. Were you going to say something?
I want to talk about this Must Be the Place.
Yes. Oh, please do.
Oh yeah. I'm dying
because it's so beautiful.
Yes.
I mean, okay, so.
Oh, please.
No, go ahead.
Okay,
play it. I mean,
I
just
wanna
like
hear it.
this. You loop this song, and this beat can just keep going forever.
And it really does.
Beautiful.
Doesn't it?
It's just so chill and happy and upbeat.
Oh, especially
and, like,
this part right here is like.
Yeah. It's beautiful. And yeah. And there's so many, like, I read a Pitchfork review of this album and this song that said that found the lyrics to be, like, disingenuous and, like, depressing. And I think that that's the most bullshit I've ever heard. Like, it's the most beautiful love song. There's so many great lines.
That's such a cynical way to look at it.
Yeah, like, I'm just an animal looking for a home. Like, you've got a face with a view. Like, sing into my mouth. That's the best thing ever. If you're kissing someone and you're listening to music and you're both kind of singing a little bit as you're kissing, like, what is better than that?
Oh my God!
It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful.
I mean, I think anybody who would say something like that just doesn't believe in David Byrne as being like
a positive.
Yeah, or just he's not putting on a personality. That's just him. I mean, like those are his.
It sounds so naked. It sounds like to someone it would have to be sarcastic.
Right.
Because you could be that.
That's it's that
open about their heart.
They think of him as being ironic about it. And
I don't think so.
Yeah. And actually, he was on. Do you listen to the Mark Maron podcast? What the fuck? WTF? He was on as a guest in an episode I listened to not too long ago. And he was saying to Mark that there was one song of his early on. What is it? That somebody thought it was racist because they took it. God damn it!
One of their songs?
Yeah. Edit this part out. Sorry. Gonna try to think of what it was.
You can't because the music's playing.
God.
Make it count.
Right.
Damn it!
Right.
Or save it.
It's such a challenge.
I'm saving it. I'm not cutting this out. I changed my mind.
I have a note here in my notes about the line "Love me till my heart stops." That might be. I'm wondering if it's one of the best lines in English music ever, sung or written. Because like the meaning. Part in the song, the perfection with which it fits into the song, the harmonies of that line. You can sing that line like 6 different ways, and every way it feels like you're like a power pop.
Wow, I didn't really notice that one as much. But now that
you sing it low, you sing it high. It feels good.
Say it again.
Everything I just said, I don't think I can do that, but
no.
That line, like, it's just...
just the words of the song is what I'm saying.
Love me till my heart stops.
Wow, that's powerful.
Super powerful. Yeah. And it's like a cry, it's like a scream almost, but it's like perfectly in tune. Yeah. I think the whole song builds up to that line.
And I think the way they performed this in Stop Making Sense was so perfect. Yeah, I think it really fit the mood of the song.
Love me till my heart stops.
Yeah.
And then it's over. There's
You're right. There's the low and the
2
high.
lines left, and that's done.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Good catch.
Yeah.
It's a nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, it's great. I had a week, so the week listening to that song, I thought I was like falling for someone, so I was basically crushing really hard on someone while I was listening to the song. It was glorious.
Ah,
yeah, it wove together really, really,
Can
really
I
well.
ask, did you guys hear the song together, or did this just remind you? Or
No,
make you think?
we had been talking about the Talking Heads, and he's really into them. And he was like, "Oh, you have to listen to
Well,
this
isn't he
song."
here?
Yeah,
Oh
I
no,
know.
it didn't work. It didn't work. It didn't work out.
Yeah.
It didn't work out, which is totally okay. Like it happens, right? You meet people
sure.
and you think, "Oh, this is going to be a thing," and then it's not a thing. And sometimes that's terrible, and sometimes that's fine.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear you like the Talking Heads anyway. And
Oh yeah.
while we were talking about this song, I also did remember what I was trying to remember before about David Byrne on the podcast, and it wasn't a racist thing. It was True Stories, the album and movie of the same name. It depicts this town in Texas, really strange characters, really oddball people, and quirky and weird. And I think it kind of celebrates that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it takes them at face value, and that's what he intended. But he said there were a lot of people who thought he was being really mean to these people. They completely saw it as being ironic and sarcastic, and he said that was never ever what he meant.
Judgmental, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, they just thought his approach to, like, he was making fun of them, but he was, as he says, he was celebrating them and making, you know, just showing that this is just life, you know what I mean? And if you see the movie, it makes a lot more sense. And knowing how he is, that he just appreciates weirdness, you know, and in all its forms.
Mm-hmm. I do suspect that he finds things absurd, though. But
Yes.
absurdity is a different thing than
It is.
something you're making fun of.
Right.
Absurdity is like surrealism, right? It becomes its own brand of thing.
Absurdity is awesome stuff, right?
Yeah. But it's like different from making fun of something.
Right.
I
But
think.
And I don't think
there is a distinction, yeah.
Right?
And I don't think he does the making fun of much in his.
I think in order to observe the quality of absurd, you have to understand that there is no judgment first.
It's like inherent in absurdity's
Yeah.
nature.
Absurd is like sublime, you know, these things. You know, to recognize these qualities, you have to be one step above being a judgmental jackass, you know.
Yeah, I think you have to not be judging. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To appreciate it for what it is. Yeah.
So, Little Creatures. I have to admit, I think I didn't like this album so much when it came out. There was something too simplistic and childish about it, and it was like nursery rhyme-ish. And over time, I think going back to now, I haven't listened to it much in years. Going back to it and listening all the way through, I like it more now than I did then. For some reason, it's time has softened my the things that made me kind of you know.
What
there's a
songs
lot
are
of good songs.
associated
Perfect
with it?
World, Television. Some good songs.
I guess, no, not so much. I guess maybe Stay Up Late. Road to Nowhere really bugged me for a while.
Bugged you?
I don't know why. I think I'd just been so much into their funkier stuff that
Well,
it just
we
seemed...
always play songs that we really like to hear. Why don't we play
yeah.
this one right here and just like have
I
some
mean,
understanding what that
I
means?
like them all now. I
Yeah.
think it's a very solid album when I go back and listen to it now. So, like, Give Me Back My Name is one of the less well, you know. Actually, this is one of the songs that works better, I think, in the context of the album. It's like, listening to it right now, I'm thinking, well, I'm not sure, but maybe I don't like it as much.
Yeah.
But it follows well from And She Was. In a way, though, I mean, you can, like, so this doesn't fall that far from their first couple of albums, really. And that's why a lot of this album, I think, now listening to it right after listening to their first ones, I see a thread definitely that continues to it. It's like more, the lyrics are a little more like upfront. It's straightforward, not as like just kind of like stream of consciousness or I don't know, they make more sense, I guess. But like musically, it's just like a slightly more countrified version of their early stuff, and maybe more heavily produced version. I don't put it in the same class as those first couple of albums.
I'm kind of with you on that.
Yeah,
like this record kind of takes a turn for me that like I like, and it would be the kind of thing I could see myself dipping into later. But yeah.
Yeah, like this one's way too country-ish.
Yeah.
The Lady You Don't Mind, I think I like quite a bit. Yeah. This has got a cool sound too once it gets going. But that bass, the next bass.
Super like 80s movie soundtrack sounding.
And that's, I think, of all their albums, it's the most dated, maybe.
Huh.
Or it kind of doesn't escape its time as much as their other stuff does. I mean, speaking tongues, maybe a little too. Some of the instrumentation on that album is a little more based in the 80s. But most of their other albums, I think, are. I'm saying that too. Like the early ones definitely sound like 70s.
I don't think they sound dated though.
They don't sound dated, no. I guess it's different. I mean, you can know it's from a certain era, but doesn't mean it's dated.
It doesn't mean it sounds like it.
Yeah.
Like a product specific.
Well, there's a hairband quality to the song.
You think so?
Wait,
Yeah.
hairband. You mean like
Like
John
sticks
Bon
or
Jovi?
something. Yeah.
interesting? I did not have made that connection. How do you, what? I'm not saying you're wrong.
I think you're saying overproduced.
Perhaps.
I think that's what you're saying.
Perhaps you're right.
Like
There's
it's
like
a
a
little
repetition
too, it's
to
a little
it.
too slick.
Like,
It's a little too smoothly mixed together.
yeah.
It's not as syncopated. It's not as like vibrant.
I think that was part of the problem with the album too at the time when I first heard it. It was just sounded a little too slick, a little too.
Yeah.
I don't know. It didn't let go enough.
But his voice chimes in there, man.
Oh, yeah.
Takes it away.
This song is still pretty rad.
He's so good.
Yeah. Yeah, his singing is still. And Stay Up Late is such a ridiculous song. As
It
you
makes
said,
me laugh.
But it's such a fun
every
song.
time I listen to it. It's so silly. And
I
also,
like these little sounds he makes. at the
musically it's
beginning.
fun, but then
Yeah.
the lyrics are so silly that you're like, what is even happening?
Yeah, music, and that's something I would say about all of their music. Musically, it's fun. It jumps around.
Yes.
Man. It's
Yeah.
like not. It feels spontaneous.
Yeah.
And like,
They're almost
Fresh.
never not fun.
you know, whatever you might not expect that,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what's going to happen next. It's kind of fun that way.
Expect the unpredictable. Predict the unpredictable. Like
So silly.
little pee-pee, little toes.
Yeah. My favorite line is about how like we're having fun but we're not spending money. Ridiculous.
So, Sarah, what are you looking at right now
These are my notes.
for
For this.
this?
I mean, that's what I was reading and how I was listening to.
Well, I'm embarrassed I don't have mine with me now. I wish I had brought
Did you
one.
take some?
Hell yeah, dude.
Bring them. Bring them.
I will.
I mean, if you've got a long period too. That's
This is like the most fun kind of note taking ever, right? About
Yeah,
music.
yeah.
God, it was like
Well-
when I was to art school and I would like my reading assignments. I was like, I have to do this. It's like the best
Right.
thing ever. I totally want to read about this.
I just like I'll have it on while I'm working, and I'll suddenly realize something about the song. I'm not even necessarily paying that much close attention, but suddenly I have the thought about it and I jot it down or something. And so I mean, not all of them necessarily make it to being worth talking about later, but I just jot down ideas I have about it. Feel free to
I will do a
remember
better
to read yours
job,
next time.
Dave. I will do a better job.
You can do it however you want. I don't.
No, I like this. I like this.
You like
I'm
it?
gonna do this.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. I'll be
Whatever works for you.
more. I'll be more ambitious about doing that. Cool.
Honey Dad, anyway. So,
I'm excited about that.
television. This sounds so irritated.
Television Man. This is a cool song.
This little keyboard thing. I just hate that. Stupid
really
keyboard
like it?
sound. I like the song, but I wish there are a lot of songs that I would love to hear this album like in its more demo form. You know, like without the production qualities. That,
Were you listening to the deluxe remastered version?
well, I have. I don't know if it's the deluxe. No,
Well, it
actually, I
says
probably.
Remastered.
Oh,
So
yeah, it does say deluxe. So
Yeah. because there's
It has a couple. It has like Road to Nowhere early version and She
Yeah,
Was
these
early
are
version.
they're tough when you get them on the internet like that. You
Yeah.
don't really know what. So how do you want to wrap it up, Dave?
Well, I think we've done a pretty thorough job of.
So what
Getting
what
through these
project
albums.
management courses have you taken?
I don't think that's how we wrap this up, Eric. So we should also mention there are a couple other Talking Heads albums that we didn't discuss: True Stories and Naked. Naked is not a very good album. Have you listened to it?
No.
Naked.
But I like how you told me what you think of it before you asked me if I listened to it.
Okay, I'm sorry. I probably should have. Whatever, but I don't find it.
I don't really care. I just said that to fuck with
I know, you're right. I know. Compared to any other Talking Heads album, it's pretty lame.
What's the other one that sucks?
True Stories does not suck. True Stories is good. Actually, True Stories is better than Little Creatures, if you ask me. But
yeah?
I don't think everybody would agree with me.
Well, there's a song that came off there that was really popular that we
Wildlife.
didn't cover. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
So I like how you use
it.
it. How are we going to wrap this up?
Parting comments?
Yeah, like how do you guys usually, do you have like a thing? That you like what was your favorite part about the experience?
We get tired of talking, I think is how it goes.
I think, but yeah, we're just done.
Yeah.
No, I think we've made it clear that we love this exercise of listening to them.
Amazing.
They are fantastic. And if you, the listening audience, well, if you made it this far, you probably already know them. But we have not yet decided what to do next. We'll figure that out over the next few days. But thank you, Sarah, for joining us. This
Thanks
one
for
was
hosting.
fantastic. It was fantastic.
Well, I really enjoyed this a lot.
Good.
Yeah.
So
Anytime.
hopefully you do another one with us.
Anytime.
Cool. So don't forget to check out Reselect.com, my music blog.
I hear it's amazing.
It's outstanding.
It's awesome. And we'll link the podcast to there too. And hopefully don't forget to press the subscribe button on this, if there is such a thing on the where you're listening to.
Just end it.
I read somewhere you're supposed to
It's
say
dead.
that.
Put a bullet in its head.
Thanks for listening. See you later.
Good night.
Good night.
Strong finish.